This is our third brief lecture for chapter 10. It's the last one. I'm just going to quickly discuss the concept of strategic and strategy implementation. As I mentioned before in brief lecture 1, that strategic implementation is very, very crucial to the success of any strategy. It's really good to have a good plan in place and to do a lot of work in the analysis and formulation stages. But if you're not able to put your plan into practice, you're not going to see the benefits of the planning. And so it's really important that even as you plan, as you do your analysis and you do your formulation, that you really consider the ability and what is necessary in order to have effective planning. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time here to talk about some of the things that hurt strategic planning, or strategic implementation, and also some of the ways that managers can promote strategic implementation. So some of the failures, some of the strategic planning failures that in fact hinder is one, the failure of substance, the inadequate attention to major strategic planning elements. And this happens a lot of times that the organization does not necessarily take the time and do an adequate job in the planning process. Meaning that they are not spending the resources, they're not doing the right types of analysis, they're not looking at the formulation stages in terms of what am I good at, what am I not good at, looking at the opportunities, doing environmental scanning. They're not paying attention to the elements. And so if you don't do that, if you don't do a good job in the very beginning, you don't do your analysis and you don't do your formulation, then you are not going to have a good plan in which to effectively implement. So that's your failure of substance. You don't do that job. You come out with a strategy and it isn't something that is well thought out. No matter how committed you are, no matter how, what a good job you've done in following the instructions and bringing it into reality, it's not going to be. It's kind of like a recipe that's broken. It doesn't use the right ingredients. It doesn't have the right steps. And even if I follow it to a T, because it was not well planned, because it was not well formulated, it's not going to lead to benefits. Failures of process. This is more in terms of the handling of the strategic implementation. If you look at lack of participation error, this is a big problem many times for organizations. If you remember clearly, we said that contemporary management was more about participation than it was about command and control. However, many senior levels of organizations, many people in senior levels of organizations still think that it is their sole domain to create and formulate strategy without any type of assistance or any type of input from the lower level people. Well, you can see why that will be problematic, because while it may be the people at the very top that would actually formulate or should actually be formulating these plans, who's actually going to be implementing it? Well, it's the people at the bottom or the lower levels of the organization. And many times they are more acutely aware about what can be done or what cannot be done. And if they're not consulted in terms of what the plan should be, the formulation, or at the formulation stage, they might feel very disengaged, and they may actually not be able to successfully implement the strategy because they were not allowed to participate in the formulation. So that's a failure of process. Basically, not getting people involved in the early stages, not getting them participating, not getting them committed to the plan, and then asking them to do things that they had absolutely nothing or no part to play in terms of bringing it to fruition. It many times leads to disaster. As I said, strategic leadership can help, though. It can help definitely in terms of promoting implementation. Well, what is strategic leadership? It inspires people to continually change, refine, and improve strategies in implementation. You need this type of leader in organization because it's the leader that drives you to stop being complacent. To look at what you're doing, even when you're successful, and still ask the question, okay, what haven't we done here? This is the leader that, as you said, inspires people. Now, many times when you're inspiring is very different from dictating to people, because inspiration assumes that I am giving you a dream, I am asking you to be part of that dream, and I ask you to commit yourself to that dream. I'm not telling you that this is what you should do. If you don't do it, you're going to get fired. No, I am trying to get you on board. I'm trying to help you to identify with this dream and be part of the dream. And that's what strategic leaders do. That's the ones that are successful. If you think about somebody like Steve Jobs, that was able to continuously change and adapt Apple to meet the demands of the environment. What do strategic leaders do though? Well, they maintain strategic control, ensuring that the strategy is being followed, that we have a plan in place and we're implementing it effectively. If you just inspire, if you just have a dream and you kind of leave it up to everybody else to do it without any kind of control mechanism, you're never going to really be able to tell whether your plan is being implemented successfully, whether you've attained your goals, and what needs to be changed. You have to have some level of control in order to ensure that you are fulfilling your mandate, that you are following your strategy. Be the guardians of trade-off, and that's really, really important. Guardians of trade-offs, as I said before, strategy is all about trade-offs. There's some things that we can do, and there's some things that we cannot do. Right now in the division of business, we're formulating a strategic plan, a strategic agenda. And the reason we're doing this, one of the reasons we're doing this, it's to help us to evaluate ideas or to evaluate activities that we as an organization might want to do, okay? And so when these ideas come in, how do we decide, okay, what we're going to do and what we're not going to do? Well, one good way, an effective way to do that is to look at our strategy. Does this help us to fulfill our strategy? Is this in line with our values, with our principles, with our objectives? If they're not, while they might be good ideas, they're just not for us. Because we need to trade. We have finite resources and we can only do so many things. And so as a leader, you have to say, okay, listen, good idea. I see where you're going with this, but I don't necessarily know if this fits our strategy. So you have to make sure that you're allocated to the things that are needed and that you are not necessarily investing in the things that have nothing to do with your strategy. Creating a sense of urgency, okay? Many times as a leader, as the person on the top, you have a very good vantage point to see what's going on. You are privy to information that a lot of people at the lower levels of the organization may not have access to. And so people that are kind of just, hanging out, whatever, they don't really many times think that there's anything that needs to be done. There's no urgency in the matter. And so because you have that vantage point, you're able to see things before they do, you kind of have to create that urgency in them. You have to get that giddy up. You have to motivate through your leadership. And ensuring that everyone understands the strategy. Why is that important? Because obviously, I need to understand what I'm doing in order to do it effectively. 2, understanding the strategy helps me to identify and dedicate myself to it. If I don't really know what I'm doing, I feel kind of like I'm lost. I don't know, so why should I even care about this? Making sure everybody's educated and being that teacher, teaching people, not only just telling them, giving them some dreams, say, oh, you figure it out, but really helping them, guiding them, and being a teacher along the way. And that is the strategic leadership that's going to help you in terms of your strategic implementation.